We have the Black Lives Matter demonstrators. They are on the move. Protesters are at the nation's largest mall. It came after a heated legal battle. Mall of America's lawyers wanted to stop the protests, claiming the mall is private property, but the judge said that the court will deny the request to stop 3 of the protesters, but they said that Mall of America, while it has the right to detain and arrest anyone, it can't stop other people from showing up at the rally. Remember, last year at a Black Lives Matter protest, 11 people were arrested. So the question is, did the court make the right decision? Will this have ramifications nationwide? Will it set a precedent? Here in a Fox Business exclusive, we've got trial attorney Marie Napoli and business attorney Seth Berenzweig. So here's the question. What did you make, Marie, of this decision?
I thought the judge was wrong in the decision. The cases that I've read, the Supreme Court has decided that this is a private property, and quite honestly, I think it stems from our history of having public squares where the people would go and speak their mind at these public squares, but there are no more public squares. We're in privately owned property, and the judge cannot make them have these protesters in place, especially with the damage it's going to cause the shopkeepers. It's going to cause damage to the economy, and it's going to cause damage to the store owners.
Yeah, you know, Seth, Marie makes a good point here. We have, watch this, Macquarie Research put out a bulletin saying, look at this, Amazon is commanding 51 cents of every dollar in internet sales. That is really sticking it to the brick and mortar retailers who have to fight for the remaining 49 cents. You could see stores in trouble with protests like these, because what shopper is going to come out to a shopping mall if this goes on?
Well, that's true, and it's not an easy issue. Breaking down constitutional controversies is usually not a clean business, but I think I will respectfully disagree with the opinion there, because the roadmap for this decision already laid out from a decision from the Minnesota Supreme Court a couple of years ago that the Mall of America is considered not a purely private venue. They went through a breakdown and analysis that showed that roughly 13 to 15% of an interconnection with public funds shows that it really isn't that. So really what you end up with is a restricted right on behalf of the mall, but that it's very restricted, and they were not able to succeed.
We've got breaking news out of the Star Tribune, and it's a local newspaper there. It is saying that right now the Mall of America is shut down. Marie, your reaction?
Well, this is exactly what you would expect when you have a mass amount of people coming in for basically a protest when people are trying to shop. I think that the protest should not have gone forward because they've gotten their message out. We were here talking about it, whether or not they showed up for that protest today. They have an important message. They got it out, but this wasn't the way to do it.
Seth, now the protesters appear to be moving on to the light rail system nearby. Why is it morally right and justified for protesters to shut down businesses who had nothing to do with the shooting of this unarmed victim?
Well, it's not, but that's a separate issue. I agree with you.
It's the same issue. Why is it a separate issue?
It's a separate issue because the mall has a restricted right to be able to regulate. It's called time, place, and manner regulation, where they're able to coexist with the shoppers. And so the injunction request was really kind of dead on arrival. That's the problem. Now we have a new problem.
Okay, you know what? That's all legalese. That's in the weeds stuff.
No, but it's our Constitution.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. I hear what you're saying. There's a mixed message from the court. Is the shopping mall private or public property? Right, Marie?
Not according to
I agree. There is a mixed message, and it goes back to the history of where these public speaks came from, and now they're looking at the mall. The mall is not a public place, and the Supreme Court...
Why is it not a public place?
Because it's privately owned. Even though there are people that are at the mall, they're there as invitees, and they're there as invitees to shop and eat, not to cause mayhem.
Okay, Seth, stay with me on this. It seems like the judge agreed with that, with what Marie is saying, but said, you know what, we can't stop other people from showing up in the parking lot to protest. Right, Seth?
Generally, the judge did not agree. The judge said, based upon the precedent, and as the Minnesota Supreme Court has ruled before, that it is not a purely private venue, and therefore there's only a restricted right to be able to regulate this.
All right, there are mixed court readings. Seth, stay with me on this, because this is an important question I have for you.
Okay.
Do you think that the local businesses have any recourse in the courts to sue these protesters to get their money back from lost businesses, from business sales?
That's going to be a huge uphill battle. They're not going to, it's going to be very difficult. There's something called associational standing where it's hard to sue a group as opposed to individuals. But let me also just say in support of the merchants that
Could they sue individuals?
They could potentially sue individuals for tortious interference with business relations.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of the examples where when the court says that you have a limited restricted right, sometimes when you balance these constitutional issues that are core to the Bill of Rights, you do end up with these very murky situations.
Interesting. Good point, Seth. Go ahead, Marie. Final word.
I do a lot of lawsuits against mass amounts of people, and I like that lawsuit. That's something I would take.
What do you mean? You would take on this lawsuit?
I would take on that lawsuit.
What do you mean? You would sue a group or an individual?
I would sue the group for interfering in my business. Yes, I think
You'd
it's a
have
good
no
lawsuit.
standing. I don't think you'd have
Go
standing
ahead,
for
Seth,
that.
quickly. Why?
Because at that point, you're suing a group of individuals that are exercising their right of assembly, their right of free speech. You can go after individuals, and then you have standing on that.
We're talking about just the business owner having their business disrupted.
Right.
Marie, final word.
But they're causing the damage. They're causing the damage to these business owners, and they know that they're doing it. They could have done it outside and gotten the exact same reaction that they wanted.
Okay, thank you to Marie Napoli, Seth Berenzweig.